I was talking with my coach, and she said that, you know, people will work with people who are at their level or higher, right?
Hmm.
But if they're looking at your brand and it looks like it's not professional, it looks like it's less than where
Yeah.
they're at,
Hmm.
they're gonna move along.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. That's so funny and so true.
Hey, I'm Teen Zekas.
And hey, I'm Ilika Follette. We are business owners and moms with corporate backgrounds, and we are all about getting Black women paid in both corporate and business.
And you're listening to the Getting Black Women Paid podcast.
Let's go. All right. So last episode, we talked about really standing into your personal brand, right? So this episode, we want to be talking about how to get into, like, how to really stand out in your industry, your brand, your business brand, and how it gets to connect to you personally as well, right? So we're going to give some tips on that, but also we love hearing from you. What is your best tip on standing out in your industry, right? On branding yourself in your industry. We love that. So this is Ilika. So you know our voices.
Hey, I'm Teen.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. I'm like, here's my voice, but I'm about to cough. So, yeah. And the other piece I'd love to hear about from folks is what has stood out to you from other brands, right? When
Mhm.
you see an entrepreneur out there and you're like, oh my gosh, that's what I want to be, or that's, that really pulls me in, right? We'd
Yeah.
love to hear what kinds of things you've seen that really pull you in.
Yeah.
And and so many of us, especially those solopreneurs,
Hmm.
we are our brand,
Yeah.
right? And
Exactly.
so it becomes pretty personal what that brand is going to look like.
Yep. So how do you stand out? It's so funny because I was talking to someone today about, I said, if you see a big red circle, right? And then white on the inside, and then a big red dot in the middle, right? You know immediately that is what?
Yeah.
Target,
Target.
right?
Right.
Because they
That's a
have
brand.
created a brand that literally stands out. They've created an amazing logo, right? And
Mhm.
and here's a little secret. Target didn't even really create a logo. If you think about it, we've seen a Target for years before that company started. They took that and turned it into
Mhm.
theirs because of the branding strategy that went along with it.
Yep.
I actually there's a guy that I work with. His company's called Suica, right? And he does branding strategy and marketing for financial services
Nice.
industry. And he's all about, like, one of the things that he talks about and he does for his clients is standing out like in a professional way so that you're attracting that professional, that high end client, that ideal client that you want.
Right.
So looking at that target audience, what does that client want? What do
Mhm.
they want to see? Right? Really doing the market research on that and understanding.
Right.
And
And
that comes into branding. Go ahead.
and what do they aspire to, right? I was talking with my coach, and she said that, you know, people will work with people who are at their level or higher, right?
Mhm.
But if they're looking at your brand and it looks like it's not professional, it looks like it's less than where
Yeah.
they're at,
Mhm.
they're gonna move along.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. That's so funny and so true because I've been in situations where I've looked at someone's brand, like they wanted to, talk about working together or doing business together in some way, and I looked at what they had on their website, and I was like, well, and it made me think a little differently because of how they
Right.
were showing up, not just their website, but like the branding that showed up on their Facebook page and on their Instagram. And, like what things look like make a difference.
Right.
How you show up as a brand, it matters to your clients. And it also matters to people who want to collaborate with you or who you want to collaborate with.
Yep.
It stands out differently,
Absolutely. And
right?
and that doesn't mean that you need to become a designer, that you
Mhm.
need to, um,
Yeah,
get into all the color theory and design best practices and
exactly.
learn all of this yourself, right? These are things that you can delegate to
100%.
experts, right?
Exactly.
And if you love it, if you do want to do it yourself and you can
Yeah.
do it well, do it.
Do
But
it, right.
for anyone who's out there like, "Ah, I'm afraid of Canva," or "I don't wanna I don't wanna do all this stuff," you don't have to do that to have a really good brand, but you
Exactly.
do need to bring someone in that does, right?
Mhm.
And that
100.
could at first be someone on Fiverr designing your logo. It doesn't have to be this huge
Mhm.
investment upfront,
Yeah.
but
Right.
do invest in
Yeah.
some professional looking, consistent branding style.
Right. Exactly. Now, knowing that sometimes if you do, like, look at where you wanna go, because sometimes if you go to the Fiverr guy and it looks like everybody else's brand or,
Yep,
like, that's what tends to happen,
that's
right?
true.
Because
We're
it's
talking
not
about
that
standing out.
right. It's like you wanna stand out. It's like, you know what? Decide where you are in your business. Sometimes if you're relatively new, you've just started, you know what? The Fiverr guy makes sense sometimes, right?
Right.
Because like, let me just get something. And maybe you're like me, not overly creative in that way where you couldn't do your own your own logo or branding or anything, right?
Yeah.
But if you are like a few years into your business, you know what you want, you know who you want to attract, it makes sense to bring in to hire someone
Right.
who like this is what they do and they've done it, consistently
Yeah.
for other brands that or other companies, and they've helped them to stand out in the industry because that is game changing. Like the who you attract when you have your humdrum brand versus who you attract when you start to stand out in your branding and marketing and they come together and it looks seamless,
Mm,
it's a whole different level of attraction. It's a whole different level of client, right?
yeah.
And that's what branding kind of really does. It brings
Absolutely.
in that level of clients.
So someone who's listening to this and they're saying, "Okay, I am a couple years into my business. I'm ready for that, that standout professional
Mhm.
looking brand. Where do I start?"
Yeah. I would say like you can literally start either a couple ways. One is you can go to some brands that really stand out for you. Like when you're thinking about, okay, who who am I looking at? Like when I scroll, right? Because we're all scrolling on Instagram or whatever, right?
Right.
When I scroll, who am I stopping for? You know?
Yeah.
And that person, reach out to them and say, hey, because I know there's a woman named actually a couple of people who really stand out for me.
Mhm.
There's a woman named Kyla Brown. I spoke to her recently. Love her so much. She's very young. She's built a financial like empire at this point, right? She's
Mm.
doing amazing. And her brand is like fire. It literally, like, people will come and be like, oh my goodness. And it stops the scroll. And another woman, Makeda Smith, she's a real estate and has built this real estate empire actually. And her branding is so beautiful and amazing, literally stops the scroll, right?
Yep.
And it's like when you see those, it's like, how does that stand out for you? And depending on what you want, right? Because if you're someone who wants to be stopping the scroll in a flashy way, right? That's
Yep.
one type of brand. If you're someone who's like, I'm going to be working with specific professional, you know, professional people who are attorneys and in this, whatever industry, then
Sure.
maybe you want your brand to look different. Maybe it's not about that scroll stopping brand, but maybe it's
Mhm.
something at a different level that you want. And so you're over there, right?
Right.
So understanding what it is that what's the word I'm looking for? The purpose or the mission, right?
Right.
So understanding the mission of what your branding is looking
Right.
like.
Who you're trying to attract and how
Yeah.
they're finding you, right?
Yes.
Right. Because if you're, a law firm, people may not be scrolling through Instagram to find you, right? That might not be it. Um,
Right.
for me, one of those brands is Cassandra Worthy. She's
Mhm.
a speaker. She does change management for folks. And I, when I was setting up my speaker website, I was looking for examples, and hers was just like colorful. Her photos were like, "I wanna hang out with you." Like, it was just so inviting and exciting. Your mood changes when you look at her stuff,
Oh,
and like that, but I love the idea of reaching directly out and saying, "Hey, I love
mhm.
your brand.
Absolutely.
Who do you work with?" Or, "Can I talk to you about it?" I don't
Mhm.
know a single person who would not be thrilled to get that message from any
Right.
right? Like, they
Exactly.
will
Yep.
talk to you.
Exactly. It's so funny because when I redid my brand, I think it was last year, people started coming up to me about it like, "Whoa, what changed?" Like everything is so, because I had a very humdrum brand, right? I was going solely off of, hey, look at this is what I do, that sort of thing. And my
Mhm.
brand was something I just Fiverr, some sort of Fiverr guy did a logo
Sure.
and we picked some colors and we just threw it out there, right? It was not
But you have to get started, right? You need
right,
to
it
get
was
started, so don't let "I don't
right,
have the perfect logo" be the reason you don't
exactly.
start your business, so
Just
that
to
was
keep
perfect
moving.
for them.
Exactly. And I'd used it for several years. So I was way past getting started. I really should have changed it years before, but I hadn't. And Lisa Noble, Vivid Solutions, she came in and she was like, okay. She actually just reached out. She was a friend of mine. She was like, okay, I can't take this anymore. She was like,
She had an intervention.
she was like, I don't know what you have here, but this is not you. It's not your
This is
personality,
not it.
and it does not look good. And she said it in a sweeter way than I'm saying it right now, but that's how I heard it.
Right, right.
So she literally did a whole branding redo for
Mhm.
me, and people started losing their minds. Like it
Yeah.
was a game changer. The moment she redid my brand, I was attracting a different level of client. Things were coming in like so much more seamlessly. It was a shift.
Mm,
And that's what branding gets to do. It gets to be a shift.
yeah.
It gets to be something where you are now the person that when someone's thinking about real estate, they're thinking
Mhm.
about, um, they're thinking about you. They're thinking about your work. They're thinking, oh, I'm going to be, oh, who is a great, weight loss person? When you think about weight loss, what's so funny? My first thought is Weight Watchers because they branded themselves. You see
Yeah.
those WW, right?
Right,
You
you know
literally
exactly.
see it. And I'm not even a fan of, like, I'm not a,
Right.
not necessarily a fan, but that's who I think about. So it's like, how are you going to be the person that
Mhm.
folks think about when they're thinking about, when
Right.
when they think about whatever industry that you're in?
Right, and it reminds me of what we were talking about when we were talking about corporate,
Mhm.
that you wanna have sponsors who are talking about you when you're not in the room, right? If
Yes.
you have a brand that shows up, then maybe when someone else is having conversation, they're like, "Oh, I'm thinking about hiring someone for this," and their friend is like, "You know what? I saw somebody on Instagram you should check out," right? Like, you
Mhm.
want people speaking up
Yeah.
about you. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
absolutely.
Exactly. It's so funny. I gotta mention my friend Lim again. Lim, his name's Lim Bass, but what's super funny about this is that so he does branding for financial services.
Mhm.
But when I think about branding, especially for financial services, literally I think of him
Yeah.
because he has practiced what he preaches. And that's what's super important. Like
Mhm.
that's another thing when choosing like how you want to live in your brand or what kind of brand you want to be, right?
Mhm.
You want to be one that practices what you preaches. You want your brand to stand out as they do what they say they're going to do.
Right, you wanna deliver on that, right, you don't wanna have a
Mm,
stunning website and then people come and sign up for your stuff and it's janky and clanky.
trash.
The
Exactly.
actual service is bad, right, we
Exactly. It aligns, right? It absolutely aligns. And that's super important when you are thinking about your branding because your branding allows people to come to you and they may come in droves because you are just standing out now. So now that you're standing out, you want to be sure to deliver on that too. Deliver on
exactly,
the promises that you're making, deliver on what you look like, because you're looking professional, you're standing out, and now these folks are coming your way.
yeah,
So it is so key.
mm,
Yeah.
oh, I love that. Well,
Mhm.
I'm trying to think if there's any final thoughts on just sort of what to keep in mind as you're if you're considering a rebrand or you're building a brand or even just some tweaks, what's a good
Mhm.
thing to keep in mind?
I think the best thing to keep in mind is who you're looking to serve. Like, who do you want to attract and draw in? Because maybe you're serving one type of client and you want to be leveling up or shifting
Mhm,
to a different type of client. So, what does that client want to see or need to see in order to stop and come to you? You know, the second thing is like who was it is what that client needs to see. Oh yeah, and then where does that client live? Meaning like where is that client on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is that client in person at in-person events, right? And
mhm,
so how do you and your team want to show up wherever that client is, wherever that client hangs out, so that they can start coming to you as well? And that's all a part of the whole brand. If you're doing branding, they should be looking at that market analysis and market research and stuff like that to understand how that client shows up and where. That's going to be super important. That leans heavily into your branding. So, yes. All right. Well, thank you all. Today was awesome. I'm super excited. We'll be leaning more into these conversations as well. We love talking corporate in one space and business in another and bringing it together. And sometimes we'll do a couple of episodes, one on corporate for branding, one on business. So if you are listening here or watching here to the branding for your business, go back and watch the corporate one, or send or share it out to your sister, friend, cousin who is still in corporate and needs to understand how to brand themselves as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
Well, thank you all for listening and or watching wherever you are, and we will see you in the next one.
All right. See y'all soon. Take care, everyone.
Hey, thanks for watching the Getting Black Women Paid podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can catch more episodes like this one.
And join the conversation by leaving a comment below. Be sure to share this channel with incredible Black women in your life so we can continue getting Black women paid.
All right. We'll see you in the next one.